Before we start, tell us in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. If you like what you see, share it with your friends and family too. My name is Margaret Wilson, and I'm about to tell you about the last New Year's Eve party at Rose Hill Mansion, the party that changed everything. I remember standing in front of the giant mirror in the entrance hall, adjusting my pearl necklace and trying to smile. The house felt too quiet, too empty without Charles. My husband had passed away just 3 months ago, but I knew I had to keep our traditions alive. The annual Rose Hill New Year's party was something everyone in town looked forward to. Outside, snow was falling thick and fast, coating the driveway in white. The old Victorian mansion looked like something out of a fairy tale, with its towers and pointed windows all frosted with snow. But there was something different about it tonight. Maybe it was just my imagination, but the shadows seemed darker, the creaks of the old wood floors a bit more ominous. Mrs. Wilson Sarah, our housekeeper, appeared behind me in the mirror. The first guests are arriving. I took a deep breath and turned around. Thank you, Sarah. Let's make sure this party lives up to everyone's expectations. The guests started trickling in, shaking off snow and exchanging greetings. I watched as Mrs. Eleanor Porter handed her fur coat to Sarah, her diamond earrings catching the light from the crystal chandelier. Behind her came the Hendersons, followed by Dr. James Mitchell and his young wife Rebecca. They all tried to hide it, but I could see the pity in their eyes when they looked at me, the newly widowed hostess. Margaret, darling Eleanor kissed my cheeks. So brave of you to continue with the party this year, especially after what happened to poor Elizabeth and George Thompson last month. My smile froze slightly. The Thompsons had been found dead in their home just 2 weeks ago. The police called it a gas leak, but rumors had been spreading through our small Connecticut town. We must keep moving forward, I said, but a chill ran down my spine that had nothing to do with the draft from the front door. As more guests arrived, the mansion began to fill with the sound of laughter and clinking glasses. But something felt off. I couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't alone, that someone was watching us from the shadows of this grand old house. Little did I know then that this would be the last party Rose Hill would ever see, and that before the clock struck midnight, most of my guests would be dead. The first sign that something was wrong came when I overheard 2 guests whispering near the punch bowl. They were discussing another recent death, old Mr. Peterson, found at the bottom of his stairs. 3 deaths in our social circle within months. It seemed like too much of a coincidence. I was about to join their conversation when the lights flickered, and for a moment, the ballroom was plunged into darkness. When they came back on, someone let out a scream that would haunt me forever. The scream came from the library. I rushed in, pushing through the crowd of guests who had gathered at the doorway. Eleanor Porter stood there, pointing at an old newspaper that had been laid out on the reading table. I hadn't put it there. Look at the date, she whispered. December 31st, 1927. The Rose Hill Murders. My hands shook as I picked up the yellowed paper. The headline jumped out at me: 5 dead at New Year's party, Rose Hill massacre shocks community. The victims' names were printed below: Elizabeth Thomas, George Miller, Rebecca Collins, James Porter, and Eleanor Davis. Those names, Dr. Mitchell said quietly. They're just like the people who died recently, I finished. Elizabeth Thompson, George Peterson. My stomach turned as I realized the pattern. Someone was copying murders that happened almost exactly 30 years ago. The lights flickered again. This time, when they came back on, Eleanor Porter was gone. We found her in the conservatory 5 minutes later, lying still among my winter roses, just like Eleanor Davis had been found in 1927. Nobody leave this house, Dr. Mitchell ordered. But when we tried the front door, we found it wouldn't budge. The snow had piled up outside, and the phone lines were dead. We were trapped in Rose Hill with a killer, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this was all connected to something in my husband's past, something he had never told me about. Everyone stay in the main hall, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. We need to stick together. But panic had already set in. Dr. Mitchell ran upstairs to check on his wife Rebecca, who had gone to lie down with a headache. The rest of us huddled near the fireplace, jumping at every creak and shadow. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Dr. Mitchell didn't come back. James, Rebecca's voice called from upstairs. "Has anyone seen my husband?" 3 of us went to look for him, me, Mr. Henderson, and Sarah the housekeeper. We found his body in Charles's old study, slumped over the desk, just like James Porter had died in 1927. Rebecca's scream echoed through the house when we told her. But before we could stop her, she ran off into the dark hallways. By the time we found her in the garden room, it was too late. She lay on the floor, next to a dropped glass of water. Poison, just like Rebecca Collins 30 years ago. My mind was racing. 4 deaths now matched the old murders exactly. There was one victim left from 1927, George Miller, and in our group, only George Henderson was left. The study, I whispered to myself. There must be something in Charles's study that can explain this. I slipped away from the group while they were distracted. In Charles's study, papers were scattered everywhere from when Dr. Mitchell was killed. But one drawer was still locked. With shaking hands, I took the key I had found in Charles's things after his death. Inside was a leather diary. As I opened it, a photograph fell out, a group picture from 1927. And there, in the center, was a man who looked exactly like my husband. My hands trembled as I started reading the diary. The first entry was dated December 1927. "Father has done something terrible. The party tonight, all those people dead. He said they deserved it for trying to ruin our family. I can't live with this secret anymore." I kept reading, my heart pounding. Charles's father had killed those people at the 1927 party because they had discovered he was stealing money from their businesses. Charles had known all along. Worse, the diary's last entry was from just before his death. "They're getting too close. The Thompson woman found old bank records. She'll tell the others. I have to finish what Father started. Margaret will never understand, but it's to protect our family's name." A floorboard creaked behind me. I spun around to see George Henderson standing in the doorway, holding a gun. "I see you found out our little secret," he said quietly. "Charles told me everything before he died. Asked me to keep the family's honor. Those people were going to expose us, just like in 1927. You killed them all," I whispered. "You and Charles. And now there can't be any witnesses he raised the gun." I clutched the diary to my chest and did the only thing I could think of. I threw it at his face. As he stumbled, I ran past him into the dark hallway. His footsteps thundered behind me. The grandfather clock in the hall started chiming. It was almost midnight. I ran into the ballroom, where all those parties had been held, where all those people had died. The moonlight shone through the big windows, making patterns on the floor. I could hear George getting closer. "You can't hide, Margaret," he called out. "You'll be the last victim, just like in 1927. But I knew something he didn't. When Charles died, I had found a hidden door behind the ballroom curtains, a servant's entrance from the old days. I backed toward it slowly. George stepped into the moonlight, the gun pointed at my heart. "Any last words?" "Just one," I said, and pulled the curtain cord. The heavy curtain rod crashed down, hitting him on the head. The gun went off, the bullet hitting the wall. I didn't look back. I ran through the hidden door and down the narrow stairs to the kitchen. I could hear him following, stumbling and angry, but I had grown up in houses like this. I knew that old service stairs were tricky. One wrong step. There was a crash, a yell, and then silence. I waited 5 minutes before I dared to look. George lay at the bottom of the stairs, as still as his victims had been. The grandfather clock struck midnight just as the police finally broke through the snow. They found the diary and the gun, and all the proof of what Charles and his father had done. But when they went back to collect the diary for evidence, it had disappeared. Some say the house took it, keeping one last secret of that terrible night. I sold Rose Hill the next day. I couldn't live in a house with so many ghosts. But sometimes, on snowy nights, I think about that last party and all the secrets that died with it. And I wonder if somewhere, in that old house, Charles's diary is waiting to be found again. My name is James O'Connor, and I'm not who I pretend to be. Every night for the past 3 months, I've sat at the same wooden stool at Murphy's Pub in South Boston, nursing the same cheap beer. The regulars think I'm just another failed construction worker drowning my sorrows. They don't know I'm actually a detective. The beer in front of me has gone warm, like it always does. I barely drink it anyway, can't afford to get fuzzy-headed, not in this place. Murphy's might look like any other Irish pub from the outside, with its green-painted door and neon beer signs, but looks can fool you, just like I'm fooling everyone here. Tonight feels different though. The air is heavy, like right before a storm. Tommy, my informant, was supposed to meet me an hour ago. He's never late. Something's wrong, I can feel it in my gut, the same way I used to feel danger coming when I was a beat cop. I watch the room through the smudgy mirror behind the bar. Old Jimmy Murphy, the owner, is wiping glasses with a rag that's seen better days. He's humming an Irish tune, same one he always hums when he's nervous. 3 regulars are playing cards in the corner, but their usual loud jokes are missing. Even they can feel it, something's off. The front door creaks open, letting in a blast of cold October air. My heart skips a beat, but it's not Tommy. Instead, I see a face I really wish I hadn't. Mickey the Shark Flynn. He got that nickname because of how his victims disappear. They just vanish, like they were never there. He's not supposed to be here. This is O'Malley territory, and Flynn works for the Costello family. Something big must be happening. Flynn isn't alone. Behind him comes Patrick Costello himself, followed by 2 guys built like brick walls. My fingers itch for my gun hidden under my jacket, but I keep still. If they're here in enemy territory, it means trouble. Big trouble. I check my watch, 8:45 p.m. The night is still young, but I'm getting that feeling, the one that tells me this shift might be my last. 3 more members of the Costello crew walk in, then 2 of O'Malley's guys. They nod to each other like old friends, which is about as wrong as seeing a shark and a seal share lunch. A young woman sits down 2 stools away from me. She looks out of place, too clean, too innocent for Murphy's. Her hands shake slightly as she orders a white wine. Poor choice Murphy's wine has been sitting in the same box since Christmas. She catches me looking and gives me a small smile. I look away quickly, getting noticed tonight could be deadly. My phone buzzes in my pocket. A text from Tommy. Don't react. They know. Midnight. God help us. The message makes my blood run cold, but I keep my face blank, like I'm just checking sports scores. Behind me, I hear Mickey Flynn's laugh, sharp as broken glass. Jimmy Murphy's humming gets louder, more nervous. It's only 9 p.m., but I can already tell it's going to be the longest night of my life. And some of us won't be alive to see the sunrise. I've seen enough bad situations to know when things are about to explode. Right now, Murphy's feels like a powder keg and someone's playing with matches. More people keep coming in. Not the usual crowd. These guys have expensive watches and cold eyes. They gather in small groups, whispering. Every time the door opens, my heart jumps, hoping it's Tommy walking in. But it never is. The woman beside me is still nursing her wine. Her name's Sarah. I learn when Jimmy asks if she wants another. She shouldn't be here. Not tonight. She reminds me of my sister, same gentle way of moving, same kind eyes. I want to tell her to leave, but that would draw attention. Attention is the last thing I need right now. Mickey Flynn's voice cuts through the murmur. Check the back room. 2 of his guys immediately head that way. They're searching for something. Or someone. My phone buzzes again. Tommy, they have a list. Names. Your name. I grip my beer bottle tighter, forcing myself to breathe normally. A list. That explains the unusual cooperation between rival families. They're hunting rats, their word for informants. And somehow, they got my name. The bar's getting crowded now. I count 23 faces I recognize from police files. Never seen so many made men in one place before. Some of them should be trying to kill each other, not sharing drinks like old pals. Sarah shifts uncomfortably beside me. Excuse me, she whispers. Is there another way out besides the front door? Smart girl, she senses the danger. I shake my head slightly. The back door's been blocked by Flynn's guys. A crash from the kitchen makes everyone jump. Seconds later, they drag out a man I recognize, Bobby Sullivan, a small-time hustler who's been feeding information to the FBI. His face is bloody. Flynn walks up to him, smiling like a shark. "Anyone else feeling chatty tonight?" Flynn asks the room. The message is clear, this is what happens to rats. I check my watch, 10:30 p.m. An hour and a half until midnight. Tommy's warning echoes in my head. What happens at midnight? And where is he? The front door opens again. A gust of wind sweeps in, carrying the smell of rain. 2 more men enter, dragging something. No, someone. My heart stops. It's Tommy. His eyes meet mine for just a second. In that moment, I see everything: fear, apology, and something else. A warning. Don't blow your cover, his eyes say, no matter what happens next. The rain starts falling outside, drumming against the windows. Inside Murphy's, the tension rises like a flood. And I'm drowning in it, trying to keep my face blank while my friend is dragged past me to the back room. Sarah's hand trembles as she reaches for her purse. But Flynn's voice stops her. Nobody leaves. Not until midnight. The screams start at 11:15 p.m. They're coming from the back room where they took Tommy. My hands grip the bar so tight my knuckles turn white. Every muscle in my body screams to move to help him. But I stay still. I have to. Sarah's face has gone pale. Jimmy Murphy's stopped humming. He just stands there, wiping the same glass over and over, looking down. The screaming stops. The silence that follows is worse. Mickey Flynn walks out of the back room, wiping his hands with a white cloth. The cloth isn't white anymore. "Bring in the next one," he says, like he's ordering lunch. They drag Bobby Sullivan into the back room. He fights harder than Tommy did, but it doesn't matter. The door closes behind them. My phone buzzes. A text from my captain: "Where are you? Need backup." I can't answer. Flynn's guy is watching everyone too closely. One wrong move and I'm dead. "You okay?" Sarah whispers beside me. She's still here, still trapped like the rest of us. I give her a small nod, but I'm not okay. Nothing about this is okay. The back door opens. 2 men drag out a body wrapped in plastic. Tommy's body. They take it out through the kitchen. I force myself to look away, like it doesn't matter to me. But inside, something breaks. Flynn stands in the middle of the room, holding a piece of paper. The list. "We've got 6 more names," he announces. 6 more rats who need to learn how to keep their mouths shut. I know my name is on that list. I also know there's no backup coming, not in time. It's 11:30 p.m. now. Bobby's screams start. They're worse than Tommy's. Sarah's crying silently beside me. One of Flynn's men notices. He walks over, smiling in a way that makes my skin crawl. "What's wrong, sweetheart? Not enjoying the entertainment?" I should stay quiet. Should mind my own business. But something in me snaps. "Leave her alone," I say, keeping my voice flat, bored. She's nobody, just a lost tourist who picked the wrong bar. The man turns to me, eyes narrowing. For a moment, I think I've blown it. Then Flynn calls him back. "Joey, get over here. We've got work to do." The screaming from the back room stops again. My phone buzzes another text from my captain. Still can't answer. Midnight is coming, and I'm running out of choices. 11:45 p.m. The clock on the wall seems to tick louder with each passing minute. They've taken 4 people to the back room now. Only 2 have come out in plastic. The other 2 gave up names, more names to add to their list. I watch as Flynn's guy writes them down, wondering how many innocent people they'll kill tonight. Sarah's still next to me, her face streaked with dried tears. She tried to leave twice more. Each time, Flynn's men pushed her back to her seat. Now she just sits there, staring at her hands. "Your turn," Flynn points at a man in the corner. I recognize him, Danny Green, a bartender from O'Malley's other pub. As they drag him to the back room, his eyes meet mine. He knows who I am. I can see it in his face. My heart pounds so hard I'm sure everyone can hear it. If Danny talks, I'm dead. If he doesn't talk, he's dead. There's no good way out of this. The rain outside gets heavier. Thunder crashes. The lights flicker once, twice. In those brief moments of darkness, I see Sarah pull something from her purse, a small recorder. My blood turns to ice. She's not a tourist. She's a journalist. If they find that recorder. Flynn walks past us, heading to the back room. In that moment, I make a choice. I bump into Sarah, knocking her purse to the floor. As she bends to pick it up, I whisper, "Back pocket of my jacket. Police badge." When I move, run. Her eyes widen slightly, but she keeps her face down. Smart girl. Danny's screams start. They're different from the others, weaker, like he's already given up. Then they stop suddenly. The door opens. Flynn storms out. "O'Connor," he shouts. "Where's Jimmy O'Connor?" "That's my cover name." Danny talked. Flynn's eyes sweep the room. In 2 seconds, they'll reach me. My hand moves toward my gun. The lights go out completely. Thunder booms so loud it shakes the windows. In the darkness, I hear running feet, shouts, confusion. My hand finds Sarah's arm. Now I whisper. We run. Gunshots explode behind us. Glass shatters. Someone screams. We make it to the kitchen, slipping on the wet floor. More shots. A bullet hits the wall next to my head. The back door is blocked by a huge guy with a gun. I don't think, just act. I tackle him as Sarah ducks past. We crash into boxes of beer bottles. His gun goes off, the flash blinding in the darkness. Pain explodes in my shoulder. But there's no time for pain. Not now. It's 11:55 p.m. 5 minutes until midnight. 5 minutes to survive. My shoulder burns like fire as I push myself up from the broken glass. The huge guy isn't moving. He hit his head when we fell. In the kitchen's emergency lights, I see blood on my jacket. Mine or his, I'm not sure. Sarah's voice comes from outside. "Detective." More shots from the bar. Running feet coming closer. I grab the fallen guard's gun and run through the door into the rainy night. Sarah's crouched behind a dumpster. Smart again. I join her just as Flynn's men burst into the alley. O'Connor. Flynn's voice echoes off the wet brick walls. "Come out and maybe we let the girl live." I check the gun. I took 3 bullets left. Not enough. 1 minute to midnight. Flynn calls out. "You know what happens at midnight, cop? Everyone on that list dies. Everyone. We've got guys at their homes right now, waiting for my call." My phone buzzes. The captain team's in position. Give the word. Sarah grabs my arm. My recorder, she whispers. "It got everything. We can stop them." A shot hits the dumpster, making us both jump. 45 seconds. Flynn shouts. I have to choose. Stay hidden, let backup take them down, save ourselves. Or try to stop the midnight murders, knowing we might not make it. Sarah squeezes my arm. She doesn't have to say it. We both know what's right. I text the captain now. Then I stand up, gun raised. "Flynn, want to know something funny? You missed a name on your list." He turns, weapon aimed at my chest. 30 seconds. "What name?" "Yours," I smile. "Check your crew's phones." Flynn's face changes as he realizes. While he was hunting rats, I was hunting him. Every call he made tonight, every order to kill, recorded on his own men's phones. The evidence Sarah caught was just backup. 10 seconds to midnight, I say. The alley explodes with light and sound. Police cars screech in from both ends, spotlights blazing. "Police, drop your weapons." Flynn fires. I fire back. We both miss. Then the night fills with gunshots and shouting. Flynn falls. His men either drop their guns or try to run. None make it far. It's midnight. I slide down behind the dumpster, my shoulder on fire. Sarah's calling for help. Sirens wail in the distance. Detective Sarah's voice seems far away. "Stay with me. Help's coming." The list, I mumble. Did they stop them? The midnight kills. They got them all, she says. Every team in position. Not one target touched. You did it. I close my eyes, just for a second. The rain feels cool on my face. We did it. But the cost. Tommy. The others. Too high. Way too high. 3 days later, I stand in front of Tommy's grave. The bandage on my shoulder itches, but the pain pills help. Sarah stands beside me, holding her recorder. The story runs tomorrow, she says quietly. Front page. Flynn's whole operation, the corrupt cops who helped him, everything. I nod. Her story will change things. Maybe make Tommy's death mean something. Jimmy Murphy's pub is closed now. They found 3 bodies in that back room. 3 families who'll never see their loved ones again. The thought sits heavy in my chest. You're quitting undercover work, Sarah asks. Yeah, I place a small stone on Tommy's headstone. Some costs are too high. We walk away as it starts to rain again. Behind us, the cemetery is quiet except for the soft patter of drops on stone. Ahead, the city waits, a little safer now, but the shadows are still there. They always will be. My phone buzzes, the captain calling about another case. There's always another case. But tonight, I just let it ring. Some nights stay with you forever. That midnight at Murphy's? That's one of them. My name is Linda Thompson, and I never thought I'd end up alone in a mountain cabin during the worst blizzard Colorado had seen in decades. But here I was, with my 2 kids, trying to piece our lives back together after the divorce. Mom, there's no Wi-Fi, my 13-year-old daughter Emma called out from the living room. Her brother Tommy, only 8, was too busy pressing his nose against the frozen window pane to care about internet connections. That's kind of the point, honey, I said, hauling the last of our bags inside. The cabin door closed with a heavy thud behind me, and I watched my breath form little clouds in the cold air. The electricity hadn't kicked in yet. We're here to disconnect, remember? Emma rolled her eyes in that special way only teenagers can. I got it, this wasn't easy for any of us. 3 months ago, we were a normal family in Denver. Now, after catching David with his 20-something assistant, everything had fallen apart. The kids needed a break from the whispers at school, and I needed a break from the pitying looks from neighbors. My old college friend Sarah had offered up her family's cabin in Cold Creek, and it seemed like the perfect escape. The cabin was beautiful in a rustic way, all wooden beams and stone fireplace, but something felt off. Maybe it was how the wind whistled through the trees outside, or how the shadows seemed to stretch a little too long across the walls. I shook my head. Just divorce stress playing tricks on my mind. I got to work starting a fire while Tommy helped unpack the groceries. Emma eventually gave up on finding a signal and joined us, her mood improving as warmth spread through the cabin. By the time we sat down for hot chocolate and sandwiches, things were starting to feel almost normal. That's when Tommy said something that made my skin crawl. Mom, what do the weird marks on the trees mean? I looked up from my mug. What marks, sweetie? The ones carved in all the trees around the cabin. They look like stars, but weird ones, with eyes in the middle. Emma perked up. I saw those too. Super creepy. I walked to the window, trying to keep my voice casual. They're probably just old trail markers, but as I peered out into the gathering darkness, I could see them dozens of symbols carved deep into the bark of the surrounding pines. They definitely weren't trail markers. They looked ancient and wrong somehow, like they were carved by someone who wasn't quite. A gust of wind rattled the windows, and the lights flickered. Tommy grabbed my hand. Maybe we should have stayed in Denver, Emma whispered. I squeezed Tommy's hand and put on my bravest smile, even as my heart pounded. Don't be silly. We're perfectly safe here. It's just an old cabin in the woods. I had no idea then how wrong I was. I couldn't sleep that first night. The wind kept howling and every creak of the cabin's old wood made me jump. Around midnight, I grabbed my phone and tried to Google anything about strange symbols in Cold Creek. No signal, of course. I should have downloaded some local history before we came up here. The next morning, I made pancakes while Tommy and Emma slept in. The kitchen window looked out over the backyard, and in the morning light I could see the symbols clearly. They formed a perfect circle around the cabin, each one cut deep into the bark. Some looked fresh. My hands shook as I flipped the pancakes. Someone had been here recently. Should we leave? But the weather report had warned about a big storm coming. We'd be stuck here at least until it passed. Mom, Emma's voice made me jump. She stood in the doorway, hugging herself. I found something in my closet. I followed her upstairs to her room. The closet door was open, and she pointed to the back wall. There, partly hidden behind wallpaper that was peeling away, was another symbol. But this one was different. It had words carved around it in tiny letters. The seventh seal breaks at midnight. Emma reads slowly. What does that mean? It's probably just graffiti from teenagers, I said, but my mouth felt dry. Help me cover it up. We spent the morning taping paper over the symbol, and I tried to keep the kids busy with board games, but by afternoon the storm hit. The sky turned dark gray, and snow started falling so thick we could barely see the trees anymore. That's when we heard it scratching sounds from the walls. At first, I told myself it was just branches in the wind, but it kept moving, circling the cabin like something was trying to find a way in. Tommy started crying. There's someone out there, Mom. I grabbed both kids and hurried downstairs to the living room. The scratching followed us. I pulled them close on the couch, wishing I hadn't left my pepper spray back in Denver. It's just the storm, I said, but even I didn't believe it anymore. The power went out with a sharp snap, plunging us into early darkness. In the silence that followed, we heard footsteps on the front porch. Heavy, slow footsteps. Then a voice, raspy like dead leaves. Linda Thompson. We've been waiting for you. Emma grabbed my arm so hard it hurt. Mom, how does he know your name? The door handle started to turn even though I knew I'd locked it. Somehow, I knew that whatever was on the other side wasn't just some random stranger. The marks on the trees, the words in the closet, this storm that trapped us here, none of it was a coincidence. We were meant to be here. And now they'd come for us. I pushed the kids behind me as the door swung open. Snow whirled in around a tall figure wearing a black coat. His face was pale and thin, like someone who hadn't seen the sun in years. Dark eyes locked onto mine. Get out, I shouted, grabbing the fireplace poker. I've called the police. It was a lie. No phone signal meant no calls, but he didn't need to know that. He smiled, showing yellowed teeth. No, you haven't, Linda. Just like Sarah didn't tell you the truth about this cabin. He stepped inside, snow melting off his boots. Your friend Sarah. She was one of us once. My hands shook on the poker. What are you talking about? Who are you? My name is Michael. 10 years ago, 47 of us were supposed to leave this world together right here. But I lost my nerve, ran away. His eyes flickered to the children. Now it's time to finish what we started. And you three are the final pieces we need. Tommy started crying again. Emma pulled him close, backing them both toward the kitchen. You're insane, I said, stepping sideways to keep myself between him and my children. This is crazy cult stuff. We're not part of your ritual. Michael shook his head slowly. But you are. Your divorce, Sarah offering the cabin, the storm. Everything led you here. The symbols have been waiting for the right sacrifice. A branch scratched against a window, making us all jump. Michael's smile widened. They're coming, he whispered. The others? They've waited in the shadows for 10 years, watching, waiting. At midnight, when the storm is strongest, they'll be here. And this time I won't run. I swung the poker at him, but he caught it easily. With one hard shove, he sent me stumbling backward. I hit the coffee table and fell. Mom, Emma screamed. Run, I yelled. Take Tommy and run upstairs. Lock yourselves in the bathroom. I heard their feet pounding up the stairs as I scrambled to get up. Michael watched them go, that terrible smile never leaving his face. We have hours until midnight, he said calmly. Hours until the others arrive. Shall I tell you what the symbols mean? What your children's blood will open? Fear turned to anger in my chest. This man threatened my children. Cult or no cult, I wasn't going to let him hurt them. I grabbed the nearest lamp and threw it at his head. The lamp hit Michael's shoulder instead of his head, but it gave me enough time to run. I raced upstairs, my heart pounding so hard I could barely breathe. His slow footsteps followed behind me. I found Emma and Tommy huddled in the bathroom, the door locked. Open up, it's me, I whispered. Emma pulled me inside quickly. What's happening? Mom, Tommy asked through tears. Is he going to kill us? No, baby. I won't let that happen. I looked around the small bathroom. The window was too small for Emma or me, but Tommy might fit. Listen carefully. We need to get help. I explained my plan quickly. Tommy would climb through the bathroom window onto the garage roof, then down the drain pipe. He'd run to the nearest house. We'd seen one about half a mile down the road. I'm scared, Tommy whimpered. I know, sweetheart, but you're my brave boy. You can do this. Emma helped me open the frozen window while Michael's footsteps came closer. Just as we got Tommy halfway out, we heard more voices downstairs. My blood went cold. They're here early, Michael called through the door. The storm brought them faster than I expected. I grabbed towels and sheets from the cabinet, tying them together. New plan. We're all going out the window. The bathroom door shuddered as someone hit it. Emma screamed. I pushed her toward the window after Tommy. The symbols are waking up. A new voice said, a woman's voice, raspy and strange. Can you feel them? I could. The house seemed to buzz with energy, making my teeth hurt. Outside, the carved symbols on the trees were starting to glow with a sickly blue light. Emma and Tommy made it onto the garage roof. I was halfway out the window when the bathroom door burst open. Hands grabbed my legs, trying to pull me back in. Your blood will open the gate, Michael shouted. I kicked hard and felt my foot connect with something. The hands let go, and I fell onto the snowy roof with my kids. Run, I yelled, pushing them toward the drain pipe. Run as fast as you can. But as we reached the edge of the roof, we saw them dark figures walking out of the woods, at least a dozen, all wearing black coats. They moved wrong, like puppet people, forming a circle around the cabin. We were trapped. The glowing symbols pulsed brighter, and I checked my watch. 11:45 p.m. 15 minutes until midnight. We huddled together on the garage roof, watching the cult members close in. The snow was falling so hard now I could barely see their faces, but their eyes glowed the same sickly blue as the symbols. Mom, look, Tommy pointed at the snow around the cabin. The falling flakes were starting to form patterns in the air, the same symbols that were carved into the trees. Michael climbed out the bathroom window behind us. It's beautiful, isn't it? When midnight comes, the gate will open. Our sacrifices will join the others who died here. That's when I remembered something: the emergency flare gun in Sarah's camping gear. I'd seen it in the garage when we first arrived. Old hands, I whispered to my kids. When I say jump, we jump onto that snowdrift. But they'll catch us, Emma said. Trust me. Michael reached for us. I grabbed my children's hands and jumped. We landed hard in the deep snow, and I pulled them toward the garage's side door. The cult members moved toward us, but they walked slowly, like they had all the time in the world. We made it inside the garage. I found the flare gun in an old backpack and loaded it with shaking hands. The symbols are connected, I said, remembering the perfect circle they made around the cabin. If we break the circle, we might stop whatever they're trying to do. I aimed the flare gun at the nearest tree with a glowing symbol. The cult members realized what I was doing and started running toward us. No, Michael screamed. You'll ruin everything. I pulled the trigger. The flare shot out with a bang, hitting the tree dead center. The symbol exploded in blue sparks, and a horrible scream filled the air, not from the cult members, but from the symbols themselves. The glowing patterns in the snow disappeared. The cult members stopped moving like broken toys. Again, Emma shouted. Do it again. I had 2 flares left. I shot them at 2 more trees, breaking the circle completely. The symbols went dark. The cult members, including Michael, fell to their knees, their eyes no longer glowing. My car keys are in my pocket, I told Emma. Get the car started. I grabbed a shovel from the garage wall and stood between my children and the cult members. Michael looked up at me, but his eyes were normal now and filled with tears. What have you done? He whispered. The gate. It was supposed to. The wind died suddenly. The snow stopped. In the distance, I heard police sirens. Tommy had made it to the neighbor's house after all. The police found 12 cult members that night, including Michael. They were all confused, like people waking up from a long dream. None of them remembered the last 10 years clearly. We learned later that Sarah had been part of the cult as a teenager but got out before the mass suicide. She'd forgotten about it until recently, when the memories started coming back in dreams. That's why she'd offered us the cabin. Some part of her had been pulled back to this place. The police took lots of pictures of the symbols, but by morning they had faded into the bark like old scars. They blamed everything on a crazy cult and said we were lucky to escape. But sometimes I wake up at night, thinking about what Michael said about the gate, about sacrifices and midnight rituals. The symbols may be gone from the trees, but I see them now in other places, in the patterns of spilled coffee, in the cracks on sidewalks, in the way shadows fall at sunset. Last week, Emma showed me her math homework. She'd been doodling in the margins without realizing it. They were the same symbols from the cabin. And sometimes when it snows, I watch the flakes fall and wait, worried they'll start making patterns again. The gate didn't open that night. But maybe we didn't stop it. Maybe we just delayed it. And somewhere in the dark, they're still waiting for midnight. My name is Michael Bradford, and I run the oldest funeral home in New Orleans' French Quarter. Tonight's New Year's Eve, and like every year, I'm hosting the annual gathering for local funeral directors. But something feels different this time. There's a chill in the air that even our creaky old heater can't shake off. I'm standing in front of the mirror, adjusting my black tie, trying to ignore the weird feeling in my stomach. The funeral home has been in my family for 3 generations, and its walls have seen more secrets than a priest's confessional. The tall windows are draped with heavy red curtains, and the antique chandeliers cast dancing shadows across the wooden floors. Even after 20 years here, sometimes these shadows make me jump. As I walk through the main parlor, making sure everything's perfect for the party, my footsteps echo through the empty rooms. The tables are set with our best silver, crystal glasses catching the light just right, and the champagne's chilling. Everything looks perfect, maybe too perfect. I check my watch, 7:30 p.m. Guests will start arriving soon. Usually I look forward to this party. It's the one night when we morticians can relax, share stories, and pretend our job isn't about death and grief. But tonight my hands keep shaking as I arrange the name cards on the welcome table. The grandfather clock in the corner chimes, making me jump. Get it together, Michael, I tell myself. It's just another party. But deep down, I know I'm lying to myself. The weight of all those secrets I've kept, all those death certificates I've adjusted over the years, they're starting to feel heavier than ever. I hear the first car pull up outside. Headlights sweep across the walls, and for a second I swear I see faces in the shadows. Familiar faces, dead faces. I blink, and they're gone. The doorbell rings, and my heart skips a beat. Time to be the perfect host. If only I knew then that this would be my last New Year's Eve party, and that my guests weren't all going to be among the living. I open the heavy wooden door, putting on my best funeral director smile, the one that says I'm professional but also sympathetic. The first guests are Tom and Linda from the Garden District Mortuary. Everything seems normal as I take their coats, but then I notice someone standing behind them. My hands freeze mid-motion. It's Mrs. Eleanor Jenkins. My mind starts racing because this can't be right. I prepared Mrs. Jenkins' body myself just 3 months ago. Heart attack, they said. But I knew better. I knew what really happened. Michael? Are you all right? You look like you've seen a ghost, Linda says, touching my arm. I blink hard and Mrs. Jenkins is gone. Just my imagination playing tricks, I tell myself. Too many late nights at work, too much stress. But my hands won't stop shaking as I pour drinks. More guests arrive, and I try to focus on being a good host. The main parlor fills with the usual crowd, all of us in our dark suits, making small talk about the business, but something's off. Every time I turn around, I catch glimpses of faces that shouldn't be here. Mr. Peterson, who died in July. The Thompson twins from that terrible car accident in March. I excuse myself and hurry to the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face. Get it together, I whisper to my reflection. But when I look up, I see old Mr. Martinez in the mirror, standing right behind me. He's wearing the same blue suit we buried him in last spring. The suit that hid the real cause of death, the one I helped cover up for his family. I spin around, but the bathroom's empty. My heart's pounding so hard I can hear it over the party music. When I return to the party, I notice something even stranger. I can't find Tom and Linda anywhere. Instead, there's a couple I've never invited, standing exactly where Tom and Linda were. They're pale, too pale, and their clothes look outdated, like something from years ago. The room feels colder now, and the champagne in my glass looks more like dirty water. Something's very wrong, and I have a terrible feeling this is just the beginning of a very long night. As the party goes on, I can't shake the feeling that I'm losing my mind. Every few minutes, another familiar face disappears, replaced by someone who couldn't be here. The room gets colder with each swap, and my breaths come out as little white puffs, like on a winter morning. I try calling Tom's cell phone, but it goes straight to voicemail. Same with Linda's, and Steve's, and Maria's. All my living guests just gone. Then I see him. Bobby Chen, age 17. His face brings back memories I've tried so hard to forget. Last year, his parents paid me extra to leave certain details off his death certificate. The real story wasn't a simple drowning like we wrote down. That secret has kept me awake many nights since. Remember me, Mr. Bradford. Bobby's voice is exactly as I remember it from his college interviews, the ones he never got to finish. He's standing by the punch bowl, still in his swimming team jacket, water dripping onto my expensive carpet. I back away, bumping into Mrs. Martinez. She's here now, too, her neck at that wrong angle we fixed before her natural causes funeral. You helped them hide what my husband did to me, she whispers, her cold breath on my ear. They're everywhere now. Each face is someone I helped lie about, every pair of eyes holding me accountable. The Thompson twins stand by the window, their clothes still torn from the crash their rich father paid me to cover up. Mr. Peterson sits in my favorite armchair, the poison marks I hid now clearly visible on his hands. I try to run to my office, but my legs feel heavy. The hallway seems longer than usual, stretching out like in a bad dream. Behind me, I hear them all walking, their footsteps in perfect sync. The sound of dripping water, dragging feet, and whispered accusations follows me. My hands are shaking so badly that I drop my keys 3 times before I can unlock my office door. Once inside, I slam it shut and lean against it, breathing hard. But when I look up, I realize I've made a terrible mistake. They're all here too, waiting for me. And now I have nowhere else to run. My office feels smaller than ever, with all these dead faces staring at me. The air is so cold now that my teeth are chattering. My back is still pressed against the door, but it's no use, I'm trapped. Please, I whisper, what do you want from me? Mrs. Jenkins steps forward, her gray hair perfectly set, just like the day I prepared her for her funeral. The truth, Michael. That's all we ever wanted, the truth. One by one, they start telling their stories, the real stories. You knew my husband poisoned me, Mrs. Martinez says softly, but you wrote heart attack on my death certificate. For money. My father's company paid you to hide the brake lines he cut the Thompson twins say together. Their voices sound like wind through dead leaves. Bobby Chen moves closer, still dripping pool water on my carpet. You knew I didn't drown by accident. You saw the bruises, but you stayed quiet. My legs give out, and I slide down to sit on the floor. They're right. Every single one of them. All these years, I told myself I was helping families avoid scandal, helping them grieve in peace. But really, I was just helping killers get away with murder. I'm sorry, I say, but the words sound hollow even to me. I'll make it right. I'll tell everyone the truth. It's too late for that, Bobby says, and for the first time I see him smile. It's not a kind smile. We have other plans for you. The grandfather clock down the hall starts chiming. I count the bongs. 11. 1 hour until midnight. 1 hour until what? Mrs. Jenkins kneels beside me, her cold hand patting my cheek. You've been so good at helping people cross over, Michael. Now it's your turn. The room starts spinning, and the walls seem to pulse like a heartbeat. Through the window, I can see more faces pressing against the glass, all my victims, all my lies, coming to collect their due. I try to get up, but my legs won't work anymore. The dead crowd around me in a tight circle. their cold presence making the air thick and hard to breathe. The clock shows 11:30 p.m. now. "You don't understand," Bobby Chen says, water still dripping from his hair. "We're not here to hurt you. We're here to make you one of us." "What do you mean?" My voice comes out as a whisper. Mrs. Jenkins bends down, her face close to mine. "Every soul you helped hide the truth about, we're all connected to you now. You're our keeper of secrets, Michael. And tonight, you'll become our permanent host." I start feeling strange, like my skin is too loose. When I look at my hands, I can see right through them, like they're made of foggy glass. "No, please," I beg. "I have a life, a family." "So did we," the Thompson twins say together. "But you helped take that away." My body feels colder by the minute. The walls of my office seem to fade in and out, like they're breathing. I can see more spirits now, hundreds of them, all the bodies I've prepared over the years. But these ones just watch only the ones whose truths I buried are here for me. I try to crawl toward the door, but Mrs. Martinez stands in my way. "You can't fight this, Michael. It's already starting." She's right. I can feel it happening. Parts of me are fading away, like smoke in the wind. The clock strikes 11:45, and each chime feels like it's pulling me further from the living world. "Please," I try one last time. "I'll confess everything. I'll make it right." Bobby Chen shakes his head, sending drops of ghostly water everywhere. Too late for that. "But don't worry, you'll have all of eternity to think about what you did." The clock inches toward midnight, and I can barely feel my body anymore. The room spins with faces, so many faces. All those secrets I kept, all those lies I told, they're all here now. My expensive suit feels loose, like it's hanging on a coat hanger instead of my body. "It's almost time," Mrs. Jenkins says softly, almost kindly. "Just let go, Michael." The first stroke of midnight hits. Bong. I try to scream, but no sound comes out. Bong. My fingers are see-through now, like glass. Bong. The Thompson twins hold hands and smile. Bong. Bobby Chen reaches out toward me. Bong. Mrs. Martinez nods slowly. Bong. I feel myself floating. Bong. The walls fade away. Bong. My suit starts to sag. Bong. Everything goes cold. Bong. I'm not alone anymore. Bong. The final strike hits bong, and Michael Bradford, funeral director, disappears completely. The next morning, when the cleaning lady comes in, she finds a strange scene: an empty suit and tie lying on the office floor, perfectly arranged like someone had just melted away inside it. The guest book from the party shows only one name written over and over: Truth. They never found me. How could they? I'm still here in my funeral home, but now I'm on the other side. Every night I watch new funeral directors work, and I wait. I wait for those who, like me, think they can bury the truth along with the dead, because now I know better. Some secrets refuse to stay buried, and some lies have a way of coming back to haunt you, in my case, quite literally. So if you're ever at a New Year's party in an old New Orleans funeral home and you feel a cold spot next to you, or see a face in the mirror that shouldn't be there, well, that might just be me and my friends making sure the truth stays told. My name is Robert Hayes, and I've spent 40 years making people disappear on stage. Now, at 65, I'm the one who feels like a ghost. The Nevada desert stretches endlessly before me as I drive my old Cadillac toward the stardust paradise, my former home, now just a shell of peeling paint and broken dreams in the middle of nowhere. The setting sun paints the sky blood red, reminding me that exactly 25 years ago tonight, I performed my last show here. Nobody's stepped foot in this place since that New Year's Eve. Well, nobody alive anyway. My hands shake as I park in front of the massive building. Dust covers everything: the once glittering marquee, the cracked windows, even the giant star that used to spin on top. I reach into my glove compartment and pull out my old key ring. Funny how I've kept it all these years, like some part of me knew I'd return. Just one last visit, I whisper to myself. But the desert wind seems to laugh at my words. The main entrance doors creak open with a sound that makes my spine tingle. The lobby still smells like cigarettes and cheap perfume, even after all this time. My footsteps echo on the marble floor as I walk toward the main showroom, where it all happened. I shouldn't be here. Every fiber of my being screams to turn around and leave. But something pulls me forward, guilt, maybe, or just the weight of unfinished business. As I push open the showroom doors, my flashlight beam catches something impossible: fresh roses on the stage, their red petals bright against the dusty floor. And then I hear it, the soft sound of piano keys, playing the opening notes of Auld Lang Syne. My flashlight beam trembles as I scan the stage. The piano keeps playing, but there's no one sitting at it. The music echoes through the empty showroom, making my heart race. "Hello," I call out, my voice shaky. "Is someone there?" When the music stops. For a moment, there's only silence. Then I hear heels clicking on the wooden stage, that familiar sound from thousands of shows. A spotlight suddenly flickers to life, though I know the power was cut years ago. In its glow stands Maria Rodriguez, our lead dancer. She looks exactly like she did that last night, wearing her sparkling red dress. But Maria can't be here. Maria died 25 years ago, right on this stage. "Robert," she says, smiling that same warm smile I remember. "We've been waiting for you." I stumble backward, my back hitting the dusty wall. "This isn't real. You're not real." "Oh, but I am." Maria steps forward, her dress catching the light, and I'm not alone. The whole cast is here for one last show. She gestures to the shadows behind her. More figures step into the light: Tom the magician, the Williams twins, and Sarah, our singer, all of them looking exactly like they did on that fatal night. "No," I whisper, but my legs won't move. "That show. We can't." "But we must," Maria says, her smile fading. "You owe us that much, Robert. After all, you're the reason we never finished our last performance." The temperature in the room drops suddenly. I can see my breath forming little clouds in the air. More spotlights click on, illuminating the whole stage. The dusty curtains begin to rise by themselves, and I hear the orchestra warming up, though I see no musicians. "The show must go on," they all say together, their voices mixing with the phantom music. "And this time you'll join us for the finale." I want to run, but my feet won't move. It's like they're glued to the floor. The ghost performers begin their first act, the one I've tried so hard to forget. Tom steps forward, his magician's cape swirling around him. "Remember this trick, Robert?" he asks, pulling out the steel box we used for our famous disappearing act. "The one you said couldn't fail." My throat goes dry. "Tom, please. It was an accident." But he's already climbing into the box, just like that night. The Williams twins lock the chains, their movements perfectly matched like always. I watch, helpless, as they begin the trick. Only this time I can see what went wrong. The hidden compartment, the one that should have kept Tom safe, isn't there. Instead, there are only sharp metal spikes. I try to shout a warning, but no sound comes out. The twins slam the box shut. When they reopen it, Tom is gone. But this time there's no applause, only the sound of his laughter echoing through the theater. "My turn," Sarah says, stepping up to the microphone. Her blue dress sparkles under the lights, hiding the burn marks I know are there. She begins to sing, her voice as beautiful as ever. The pyrotechnics start, just like they did that night. The flames shoot higher and higher. "Stop," I scream, but it's too late. The fire catches her dress, and Sarah vanishes in a ball of flame. Yet her voice continues to fill the room. Maria watches all this with sad eyes. "Do you understand now, Robert? Each of us will relive our deaths, and you'll watch every single one, just like you did before. Only this time you'll learn the truth." The truth. The word makes my stomach turn. Because deep down I know these weren't just accidents. The Williams twins move center stage now. their matching silver costumes catching the light. "Our turn, Robert," they say together, making my skin crawl. "Remember our special trapeze act?" I remember too well. Jenny and Jane Williams, the most talented aerial artists I'd ever seen. They begin climbing the long rope ladder to the ceiling. The spotlights follow them up, up, up. The ropes, I whisper, memories flooding back. "Please, not the ropes." They swing out into the air, graceful as birds. But I know what's coming. I can see the thin wire starting to fray. Just like before when I'd... "You checked the equipment that night, didn't you?" Robert Jenny calls down, spinning in midair. "Or did you?" The wire snaps. Both sisters fall, but instead of hitting the ground, they vanish into thin air. Their laughs echo around me, mixing with Tom's and Sarah's voices. Maria steps forward again, but she's different now. Her beautiful dress is torn, her face pale. "Only 2 acts left, Robert. Mine. And yours." She starts her famous dance, moving across the stage like she's floating. The trapdoor, the one that should have been closed, begins to open beneath her feet. "Why did you do it?" Robert, she asks, still dancing. "Was it jealousy? Or something worse?" I didn't. I never meant, but the words stick in my throat because they're lies. I did mean it. All of it. Maria dances right over the trapdoor and drops into darkness. Her scream fills the theater, then silence. Horrible, heavy silence. Now I'm alone on the stage, but I can feel them all watching me from the shadows. Waiting. It's time for my final trick, the one that killed them all. The spotlight finds me, hot and bright. My old props appear on stage, the mirrors, the smoke machine, and that cursed trapdoor. All the pieces of my famous vanishing performer illusion. "Time to confess." Robert Maria's voice comes from everywhere and nowhere. "Tell them why you did it." My legs shake as I walk to center stage. The truth I've hidden for 25 years bubbles up like poison. I was losing everything I say into the empty theater. The casino wanted younger performers, fresh faces. They were going to replace me with all of you. The temperature drops even more. Ice forms on the mirrors. "So you sabotaged every act," Tom's voice accuses. The spikes in my box. "Sarah's rigged pyrotechnics," another voice adds. "Our frayed wire," the twins whisper. And my trapdoor Maria appears in every mirror, her eyes sad. "You killed us all, one by one, making it look like accidents." Tears run down my face. I couldn't lose this stage. It was my whole life. And now they say together, "It's time for your final performance." The smoke machine starts, filling the stage with thick fog. The mirrors spin around me, faster and faster. I see their faces in every reflection, not angry, just disappointed. That's somehow worse. "Please," I beg, but I know it's too late. The trapdoor beneath my feet creaks open. As I fall into the darkness, I finally understand. This stage wasn't just my life, it was my death too. I was meant to join them that night, but I'd been too cowardly. I hit the ground, but there's no pain. When I open my eyes, I'm back on stage, but everything's different. The dust is gone. The lights are bright. The theater looks new again, just like it did 25 years ago. All of them stand around me in a circle: Tom, Sarah, the Williams twins, and Maria. They're not scary anymore. They look peaceful. "Welcome to the other side," Robert Maria says softly. "We've been waiting a long time for you to join our final bow." "I don't understand," I say, standing up slowly. "After what I did, why are you welcoming me?" Tom steps forward. "Because carrying guilt for 25 years was punishment enough. We've watched you suffer every day. And now it's time to let it go," Sarah adds, her voice gentle. "The show's over, Robert." I look down at my hands and realize I can see through them, just like the others. In the distance, I hear sirens. Through the theater's front doors, I catch a glimpse of flashing lights. Someone must have seen my car outside the abandoned casino. "They'll find your body tomorrow," Maria explains. "But your soul belongs here, with us, with your true family." The orchestra begins playing Auld Lang Syne one last time. We all join hands, and I feel a peace I haven't known in 25 years. For the first time I whisper, I'm not afraid of the final curtain. Together we bow as the theater slowly fades to darkness. The show is finally, truly over. In the morning they found my body in the old theater. They say I had a smile on my face, the smile of a performer who'd given his last and greatest show.